Have you ever stopped to think about the true meaning of your birth month? It may seem like just a curiosity, but renowned psychiatrist Carl Jung believed that there is much more behind it than we realize. According to him, the date you were born not only influences your personality, but also carries clues about your life purpose, your challenges, and even your hidden talents. What if I told you that better understanding your birth month can completely change the way you see yourself and the world around you? It seems exaggerated, but you will see that it makes perfect sense. In this video, we'll dive deep into Jung's ideas and reveal what your birth month can really say about you, and it's not what you're used to hearing out there. But before continuing, subscribe here to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any content like this. We always bring deep reflections, transformative knowledge, and subjects that go beyond the obvious, so come be part of our community. Now, take a deep breath and prepares. What you discover today may change the way you see your own story. It doesn't matter if you were born in January, July, or December, each month holds a symbolic and psychological meaning that can help you understand who you really are. And it all starts with a powerful question: what does your birth have to say about your soul? In the next few minutes, you will get to know Jung's interpretations for each month of the year, and Carl Jung, one of the greatest names in depth psychology, believed that the patterns of nature repeat themselves not only around us, but also within us. For him, the month in which you are born is not a mere chance, but a symbolic key that connects you with archetypal cycles of the collective unconscious. In other words, each month carries a unique energy linked to universal archetypes that shape characteristics, behaviors, and even people's destiny. Imagine, for example, someone who is born in a month of transition, such as March or September. These periods of the year represent important passages between seasons, between light and shadow, heat and cold. Jung saw these changes as symbolic representations of what these people carry within themselves: a dual nature, a keen sensitivity to change, and a tendency to seek balance in everything they do. On the other hand, those born in stable months such as July or January can carry with them the force of consolidation. They are people who tend to express archetypes linked to structure, persistence, and interiorization. For Jung, these individuals have an easier time dealing with limits and are naturally oriented towards building solid foundations, both for themselves and for others. It is fascinating to realize that, in the Jungian view, time is not just a sequence of days and nights. It is symbolic, alive, and loaded with hidden meanings. And when you are born at a certain point in this time spiral, you end up absorbing a kind of energetic imprint that influences how you feel, think, and act. Of course, this should not be interpreted as a fixed destination, but as a symbolic map. Jung argued that self-knowledge is the path to true freedom, and that understanding the symbols that surround us is the first step on this journey. Now that you've begun to understand how the month of your birth can reflect deep patterns in your psyche, let's explore in detail what each month actually represents according to Carl Jung's symbolic psychology. When Jung talked about archetypes, he was referring to universal patterns present in the collective unconscious, symbolic structures that shape the way we feel, think, and act. And it is precisely in this perspective that the month of your birth takes on a new meaning. This is not a superstition or popular horoscope, but a deep symbolic reading about the moment you came into the world and how it connects to the cycles of nature and the human psyche. Think of January, for example. It is the beginning of the year, a time of restart, but also of introspection. In the Northern Hemisphere, it is winter, a season of silence and recollection. Those who are born in this period usually carry within themselves the archetype of the sage or the elder, even in their youth. They are people with a natural wisdom, an inclination to reflection and to the construction of solid goals. They often have a keen sense of responsibility and often feel that they see beyond the surface of things. February, still under the influence of winter, is a month linked to silent transformation. Jung would associate this period with the archetype of the visionary. They are people who live between worlds, what exists and what can still be created. Creative, sensitive, and often misunderstood, they carry a transformative force within them. There is something rebellious and liberating about those who are born in this month. A need to break patterns, to seek new ways of existing. March marks the arrival of spring in the northern hemisphere and autumn in the south. It is a turning point. Jung would see in this period the archetype of the reborn, someone who carries within himself the ability to reinvent himself, to flourish even after difficult periods. They are emotionally deep people who feel the world intensely and have an almost instinctive connection with the cycles of life. And so, month after month, we can perceive symbolic patterns that Jung would consider fundamental to the construction of the self. April, with its energy of openness and movement, brings the archetype of the warrior, determined, impulsive people who often lead without realizing it. May, with its beauty and stability, evokes the archetype of the mistress or builder, sensual people attached to the simple pleasures of life, but also deeply committed to everything they cultivate. These archetypes are not closed boxes. They are clues, symbols that point to internal aspects that are often forgotten or ignored. Jung believed that by recognizing these patterns, we take a step toward our wholeness. We come to understand our strengths and vulnerabilities more clearly, which allows us to make more conscious choices, live with more authenticity and purpose. Now that you've begun to glimpse the archetypes linked to the first months of the year, get ready to continue this symbolic journey. Because the following months bring even more revelations, and perhaps, in one of them, you will find your own essence mirrored. June marks the middle of the year and, symbolically, represents a point of balance between the beginning and the end. Carl Jung would associate this period with the archetype of the mediator or seeker of truth. People born in this month usually carry a natural ability to see different sides of a situation, reconciling ideas and emotions with a wisdom that often arises intuitively. They are communicative, curious, and have a restless mind, always seeking to understand the world and themselves more deeply. July, in turn, brings a much more intense emotional energy. It is a month ruled by deep feelings, and those born in this period tend to embody the archetype of the caregiver or protector. Jung would see here people who have a very strong connection with his roots, his family, and his history. They genuinely care about others, but they are also highly sensitive, which can lead them to hide their own emotions so as not to overwhelm those around them. There is a silent strength in those born in July, the ability to welcome, protect, and transform the environment with their presence. August arrives with an expansive energy, strong sunshine, long days, and a vibe of leadership and self-confidence. For Jung, this month is connected to the archetype of the king or queen. Those born here often have a strong presence and a strong sense of identity. They like to be in the center, but not out of vanity, but because they feel they have something to offer. They naturally carry the responsibility of inspiring and leading, even if they don't always realize this role. When they find true purpose, they become powerful guides for others. September, with its transition from summer to fall, or from winter to spring, depending on the hemisphere, brings an energy of evaluation, organization, and practical wisdom. Jung would associate this month with the archetype of the analyst or the craftsman. People born in September have a keen eye for detail and an almost innate need to bring order out of chaos. They excel at turning ideas into concrete actions, and they have a constant pursuit of perfection, which, if not balanced well, can become a burden. But when that energy is aligned, they are able to perform incredible feats with precision and depth. October, on the other hand, brings with it the spirit of balance, harmony, and beauty. It is a month that resonates with the archetype of the diplomat or the artist. Those born in this period possess a refined aesthetic sensibility and a natural ability to connect people. They are driven by the search for the just, the beautiful, and true love. Jung would believe that these people carry within them the call to unite opposites, heal old wounds, and create bridges where others see only separation. As we approach the end of the year, the energies are transforming, revealing deeper and more mysterious aspects of the human psyche. And that's exactly what the months of November and December invite us to explore, the most hidden layers of the soul and the potential for rebirth that exists at the end of each cycle. Let's go on this symbolic journey together to find out what these months reveal about you. November is a month shrouded in mystery. The leaves have already fallen, the days are shorter, and silence begins to dominate the environments. For Carl Jung, this period of the year represents a deep dive into the soul, and those born in this month carry within themselves the archetype of the alchemist or the transformer. They are intense, intuitive, and often enigmatic people. They are not satisfied with simple answers and have an inner need to understand the most hidden truths of existence. These individuals often undergo major transformations throughout their lives. It is as if they were always in the process of rebirth. Jung believed that the process of individuation, the path to becoming who you really are, requires the courage to face one's own shadow. And those born in November seem to already come with this mission: to look within, face their fears, and transform pain into wisdom. December, in turn, brings a different energy. It is the end of the cycle, the end of an entire year. At the same time, there is an expectation of renewal. Jung would see in that month the archetype of the visionary sage or the archetype of the master. People born in December carry a mixture of maturity and hope. They look to the past with learning and to the future with faith. They are naturally philosophical, with a broad outlook on life, and often inspire others with their ability to see beyond momentary difficulties. Those born in this period have a strong connection with ideas of purpose and expansion. Even if they go through moments of crisis or doubt, they always find a way to get back on their feet, and often help others do the same. Jung believed that the end of a cycle is also the starting point for something greater, and those born in December seem to carry this awareness from an early age. When we look at all the months of the year from the symbolic and archetypal perspective proposed by Jung, we realize that each birth carries a calling, an inner invitation to explore certain aspects of the soul, develop specific qualities, and face challenges that drive personal growth. The month you were born doesn't determine who you are, but it can offer valuable clues about the paths that life can present to you, and how you can live them more authentically. By understanding these patterns, you begin to see that your story is not random. There is a symbolic order behind the events, a hidden language that speaks directly to their essence. And the more you learn to decipher it, the more aware you become of your choices, your gifts, and your mission in the world. But this journey does not end here. In fact, it is just beginning. Now that you know the archetypes and meanings linked to your birth month, it's time to go further. Let's find out how to use this knowledge in practice, and how Jung teaches us how to apply these symbols to transform our lives in real and profound ways. Understanding the archetypes linked to the month of birth is like finding a key to open internal doors that often remain locked for years. But Jung didn't stop there. For him, the true value of the symbol lies in its ability to provoke transformation. Knowing the archetype that resonates with your birth is only the first step. The most important thing is how you integrate this knowledge into your daily life, your choices, your relationships, and the way you deal with life's challenges. If you were born in March and carry the archetype of the reborn, for example, how can you use this ability to start over to heal old traumas? How can you inspire others to also find new versions of themselves? If you are from September with your detailed and analytical eye, how can you turn this into a tool of creation instead of a prison of perfection? Jung reminds us that every archetype has a light side and a dark side. The energy of the king, so present in those born in August, can become tyranny if it is not guided by consciousness. The caregiver, typical of July, can get lost in self-abandonment if he forgets to nourish himself. Therefore, the work is not only to recognize the symbol, but to dialogue with it, balance it, understand its polarities, and grow from this understanding. Jungian practice invites you to look at your life as an ongoing process of individuation, a path that goes far beyond external success or social validation. It's about becoming who you were born to be. This requires courage, self-knowledge, and a willingness to listen to one's own soul. And archetypes, as Jung pointed out, are like beacons on this path. They don't tell you where you should go, but they light the way so that you can choose more consciously. Applying this knowledge also means rescuing parts of yourself that have been forgotten. Often, the world shapes us to fit patterns, but the archetype you carry from birth calls you back to your essence. It reminds you of what is unique about you. By recognizing this calling, you can live with more truth, more wholeness, and more freedom. Everything we've explored so far, the symbols, the months, the archetypes, was built for a greater purpose, to help you see your own narrative more deeply. Because when you understand what's behind your story, you gain power over it. And now that we understand the symbolic meanings of birth according to Carl Jung and how it can be integrated into real life, we are ready for the next and final step. The completion of this journey will not be an end, but an invitation to continue exploring, living, and growing from the wisdom you have just accessed. Let's go together to the end of this transformative journey. We have reached the end of this symbolic journey, and perhaps now you will see your birth month with different eyes. More than a simple date on the calendar, it reveals itself as a portal of meaning, a reflection of archetypal energies that act silently in your life from the first breath. Carl Jung showed us that symbols are not mere ornaments of the unconscious, they are living languages of the soul. And understanding the archetypes associated with your birth is like starting to talk to your deepest essence. The great insight here is not in limiting who you are to the archetype of your month, but in using it as a starting point for self-knowledge. It's about recognizing patterns you may never have noticed, understanding your reactions, desires, and blocks more clearly, and realizing that there's an internal coherence to everything you feel, even when it feels confusing. Jung's depth psychology invites us to rescue this coherence. It reminds us that we are not lost, just disconnected from the symbolic language that constitutes us. And when we resume this dialogue with the unconscious, we begin to feel whole again. We start to live not only in the automatic, but with presence, intention, and meaning. Maybe now you can look at your trajectory with more compassion. Understand that each challenge experienced so far has been part of a process of maturation of your own archetype. That there are no mistakes, but steps. And that true power lies not in being perfect, but in being conscious, in knowing oneself deeply enough to transform one's own reality. If you have come this far, it is because some part within you recognizes the call to this transformation. And this is already a big step. Use what you have learned here as a compass. Come back to this content whenever you need to find yourself again. And remember, your birth month doesn't define who you are, but it can reveal who you're destined to become. Now, the journey continues with you. Self-knowledge is a path of no return, and also the most liberating of all.